I'm going to introduce Daniel Freeman, and I'm happy to do that. He's a professor of clinical psychology and National Institute for Health Research senior investigator at the University of Oxford, and a consultant clinical psychologist at Oxford Health NHS Foundation Trust. His research has focused on using psychological theory to develop more powerful psychological treatments, such as the Feeling Safe program that we'll be talking about today. He's also involved in a lot of interesting work that we won't have time to talk about today, like exploring ways people can learn to feel safe while they confront their fears in virtual reality. He's the winner of the 2020 British Psychological Society President's Award for distinguished contributions to psychological knowledge, and he also works to educate the public. For example, he presented the BBC Radio 4 series, A History of Delusions. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Daniel.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Ron, very much for the invite. This will be a pleasure to be speaking to everyone today, and thank you, Leah, for looking after us. And I noticed in the chat someone is on a ship mid-Atlantic. It's amazing to also attend a lecture. If you need a ship's lecture, I'm very happy to join. The work I'm going to talk about today has been long in the making for me. It's work that's really I've been wanting to ever since I started being a psychologist. When I first saw patients diagnosed with psychosis back in the 1990s, the idea that you would talk about the content of delusions was not accepted, and I was very lucky to work with people who were developing the first generation cognitive behavioral therapies for psychosis and encouraging people to talk about their experiences, and that changed so much. But even at the time, I suppose my ambition always was, well, what's the best way of doing it? Once actually it's recognized, as it should be, that one should be talking about these experiences, what's the best way to do it for the benefit of the person? And that's always been my ambition, and Feeling Safe program, which I'm going to talk about today, is a key step and marker along the way where I feel that actually we're starting to get the sorts of benefits for people that I hoped. As you'll see, there's still a lot more work to do, but I think hopefully you'll see that there's been, or at least a demonstration of the potential step change in outcomes. Now, the very best way of knowing what the Feeling Safe program is hearing from someone who's had it. So I'm going to start by playing a video of someone who was involved in the recent randomized controlled trial about Feeling Safe. And they're going to talk a bit about how things were before, how they found the therapy and after, and I think that should give you a very good overview of the therapy. So I'm going to share the video. And I'm hoping it should play.
Too paranoid about going out, thinking someone's going to stab me or someone's actually going to start a big fight. So, yeah, I was housebound. I missed out on a lot of family events. Be very shy staying in my room when visitors would come to the home. Purely just paranoia. I missed out on many things in life. I missed out on meeting my friends, family events, meals, training, sports. I was just in a very paranoid state. Missed out on a lot of things. Probably lost contact with so many friends that they probably wouldn't talk again. Couldn't sleep, and when you don't sleep for like 3 days, you literally start hallucinating and go a bit bonkers. It's quite horrible. Sleeping in the day from 9 AM to 5 PM, which is the time people are working. I'm asleep, I wake up and during the winter it's dark, so you've slept through the daylight. Yeah, so there was so much worry on my mind that I couldn't sleep. I'd lie in bed and I'm thinking, nah, tomorrow something's going to happen, something's going to happen. Yeah, it would play in my mind 24/7. I was referred to the Feeling Safe study, and it took a lot of persuasion for me to start, but I thought I would give it a go. It would be brilliant. Initially, I was housebound, and the therapist would come visit my home, and we'd have a chat and build up trust and rapport. And it took a while, but eventually I got convinced to go for short walks, and the short walks were great. It helped me lift my paranoia. Talking to someone who can understand you after building trust is just brilliant, really brilliant. The sleep therapy was, yeah, that part of the Feeling Safe study was superb. Go in bed 5 a.m, awake 1 p.m, and slowly cut it back by doing more things and activities in the day. Building confidence, another big factor of what the therapist helped with the Feeling Safe study. Building confidence, yeah, and being active in the day. Because then the reward is a better sleep. That's the reward. It makes a massive difference on feeling paranoid if you have good sleep. It changed dramatically when I was advised on safety and reducing stress and anxiety and just calming down, and at the same time being advised and like rewiring my brain to, feel safe and understand why there are reasons why I should feel safe. And I kind of had a bit of an epiphany in my mind where I thought, I'm around so many people, I don't feel angry or paranoid. I actually genuinely do feel safe. I don't think someone is going to harm me in any way, not in the long term, not in the short term. Yeah, there are techniques taught that I'll never forget. I feel very safe. After a life-changing study for me, I feel very, very, very safe. It worked. Yeah, it really did. It helped massively. Get better sleep, feel more confident, be more active in the day, an active life, a great life again. I feel genuinely inside, I feel very, very happy. Yeah, it's profoundly changed my life entirely. It's been a life-changing experience. I don't have to worry anymore about people potentially attacking me or thinking whether someone has a weapon in their pocket. That's all kind of like floated away. But living a safer life is more enjoyable.
So that's the best description of the Feeling Safe program that I think you can have. Sorry, shut my door. A lot of the themes are important to feeling safer in that description too. He described how unsafe he felt, and really the journey is towards safety. And of course, when he felt unsafe, the world became hugely restricted for him. And as you saw, what was important, there were issues around sleep, around worry, around self-confidence, all the sorts of things that we address in feeling safe. I'm going to talk you through the details really now of why, the development of it, the process. And I'm not just telling you that to just show the credibility of the work, really, in the sense of the time and the research behind it, but also because the way we develop feeds in to the style of the Feeling Safe program too. So I'm going to share the slides. Hopefully you can see now. Okay. So, funny enough, I've been, the account you saw and more and more at work, I've often been thinking back to one of the first people I ever saw, who I had to sit at home, and the nurse said to me, what you have to do is whatever you do, do not knock on the front door, because he'll believe it's the people come to get him, the government and others who've come to get him. So what you have to do, I was very young and not really sure what I was doing at that time, and they said what you have to do is basically crawl through the bushes, past the bins, and you've got to do 2 knocks on the side window. Then he'll know it's safe, and he'll open up the window, and then he'll start talking to you, and then eventually let you in, which is what happened. But basically the person's life had become so restricted, he was rarely going out, mainly staying inside, and that's where the whole feelings of threat and feeling unsafe had left him. And actually for a significant portion of people who have severe paranoia, that kind of restriction to lives is very common. Now the challenge really that, like the person in the video, but also the person who visited at home, they'd had many other treatments before and antipsychotic medication, some of them had psychological therapy. Now obviously these are treatments that work, and they help a proportion of patients very well. But there's still many patients who are left feeling extremely unsafe despite current treatments. And for 2/3 of patients with antipsychotic medication did not even see a halving of psychiatric symptoms. And with standard CBT for psychosis, 90% when it's added to antipsychotic medication don't even see a halving of symptoms. So there's still a lot of improvement for people despite current treatments. And then of course there's problems of side effects and uptake of medication, and issues of the availability and the complexity for implementation of psychological therapies. So the ambition that I had was to improve the outcomes, the treatment, psychological treatment. And part of that has been recognizing that schizophrenia actually comprises multiple different experiences, and there's certainly factor analysis studies showing there's separate psychotic experiences. Of course, there's going to be a degree of overlapping causation across mental health, but also because they are different, there'll be a degree of difference. And therefore, when trying to improve treatment outcomes, one thing is just having greater precision in what you're trying to do, and therefore focus on one discrete experience that's common in people with psychosis and also inherently distressing. So that's the focus on severe paranoia, persecutory delusions. And it's a group that needs better treatment. So this is looking at psychological well-being, and it shows that about half of patients with persecutory delusions in the context of psychosis are in the bottom 2.5% of the population for general psychological well-being. We need to do better for patients with these difficulties. And there's lots of terminology floating around in this area. Just to be clear, when I'm talking about persecutory delusions, I'm talking particularly about beliefs strongly held but inaccurate, that others have the intention to cause the person harm. So that's what I'm talking about. The development process has been well over a decade, and there's been a number of steps within this. So firstly, it's been going back and developing a better psychological understanding of severe paranoia that's useful for therapy. With a recognition there is no one cause of delusions. It's often multiple things coming together that may vary across individuals. So the idea was to develop a treatment for each of the main factors resulting in delusions. And not only identify the factor and the treatment, but also think how best to deliver it, best therapeutic style. And then for each treatment element, test out whether we can change that psychological process and whether it has the knock-on benefit to the delusion. And that's called an interventionist causal approach. So it's a very careful way of building up a treatment. So we know, if we include anything in the full series, that we know that we can change the mechanism we're targeting, and that will have effect on the paranoia. So we've done a number of studies testing out each element of treatment. We also have tried to show that actually these are treatment types that people want, because no matter how good your treatment is, if people don't want it, it's useless. We then spent time working out how to combine the different elements. We then tested in a full treatment in a case series, and then last year, as I'll talk about, tested in a full randomized controlled trial. And throughout this work, we've always worked with people who've been through these sorts of experiences, with lived experience. And that's been an important part of shaping this program.